I've been testing an idea that I had for a new 2S Whoop, and today I am super excited to be able to share it with you. I have the build right here. I am using the Beta85X frame with 2-inch props, so it looks a lot like the 85X that I just showed you the other day. But these builds are actually pretty different. This is a 4S drone. It's crazy fast and powerful. That's a lot of fun if you've got a big enough space to really rip around. But what I love most about Whoops and 2S Whoops is the ability to fly pretty much anywhere, and that's why I am so excited about this build. What I've done is I've dramatically reduced the weight and optimize it for the kind of flying that I personally like best in these small to medium sized spaces where I love to fly Whoops. That's inside, outside, and around my neighborhood. This build is 39 grams dry, which is about 20 grams less than the 85X, 28 grams less than the 2S Baby Hawk if you ever flew one of those. It's light enough, quiet enough, safe enough, and durable enough to fly absolutely anywhere. And yet the Acro performance on this build is simply better than any other micro drone that I have flown, at least so far. I can honestly say I have never had a washout with this build. I've never had a dive or loop that I couldn't pull out of cleanly. I don't even get that feeling where I'm starting to lose yaw control. It just simply carves its way through the air effortlessly. If you like big acro in small spaces, I think you're going to like this too. It is just a joy to fly. So let me show you the build that I have affectionately termed the Shutterbug85. And here is the build up close. This is the 85X frame by Beta FPV, Emax Avon 2-inch 4-blade props, Beta FPV 11,000 kV 1103 motors. Those are the motors from the Beta 75X, and they plug in right here to the Beta FPV 2S all-in-one flight control board. That is flight control, ESC, OSD, and receiver all in one board, which is a huge weight savings. The Canopy and camera is also really light with smart audio and adjustable pitch. There's a couple different ways you could go with this Canopy, so more on that in a second. If you already have a Beta 75X and you want to try something new, you could actually just take the components off this build and transplant them onto the 85mm frame with 2-inch props. That build wouldn't be quite as light as mine, but I'll bet it would still fly pretty great. This build has a dry weight of about 39 grams, and when you add a 300 milliamp battery like this one, you get up to a total weight of about 56 or 57 grams. I like to fly indoors that way, but for ripping around outdoors, these batteries are simply awesome. This is the ADC 300 milliamp battery by TBS and by GNB. I highly recommend these. They work out really well for a build like this. On 300 milliamp hour, I get about 3 to 5 minutes of flight time and up to 7 minutes on a 450. This certainly isn't my lightest 2S Whoop, but these props provide so much control. I don't know, for me, the balance of power and weight just feels really good for flying Acro. I can even do it indoors. Check this out. Before we wrap up, there are a few more things I need to say, starting with these props. You may have noticed I am not using any prop screws. The 75X motors have an open bell, and that's part of what makes them so light for their size, but that means you have to push the props on. I don't think that's a problem at all. I've had tons of hard crashes, and I've never had a prop come off. I've never even had a prop get damaged in a crash. What I do instead is I use just a little bit of dental floss like this. I will pull it through, push it on, and then trim off the excess. You might even be able to see a little bit of that right here, and it works great. In terms of durability, this frame does flex a little bit, and it does a good job of protecting the props. I can often recover in the air or use turtle mode to take off again unless I'm snagged on a bush or something like that. But this build is capable of going really fast, and nothing is indestructible. If you have a hard enough hit into a solid object, it is possible to break this frame. I've got one right here, and so you might want to order some extras. But like I said, I've had lots of crashes. It takes quite a hit to do this. Let me show you. Now, like I said, there are different ways you could go with this canopy. I don't really feel like the canopy is the important part of the build as long as it is relatively light. And having adjustable angle, I think, really does improve the versatility of this build. You don't have to use this one though. You can use whatever you want. You might want to get a Mobula 7 canopy. That's an easy way to go with the camera that fits in here. If you do that on this frame, I haven't actually done that yet, but I've got a little 3D printed adapter, and this should do the trick. The Mobula 7 has tall standoffs, and this adjusts for that. If you want to use this canopy, it is the UR65 or US65 canopy. It doesn't fit perfectly. It has these nubs on the bottom, and I had to shave those off with sandpaper, and just rubbing like this on the sandpaper. If I take off the canopy, you can see the flight controller and VTX. If they look a little bit shiny, that's because I waterproof all of my outdoor drones. This flight controller is the one that originally was made for the 65 Pro 2 and the 75 Pro 2, but I am using it here. It has a 5 amp continuous rating, 6 amp burst, I think. I'm not actually sure exactly how much these motors can pull. It's conceivable that if you flew on 100% throttle continuously, this board could get hot, but I have not had any problems in my actual flying so far, but disclaimer about that. One thing that I appreciate about this board specifically is that it has through-hole solder connections here, and they're nice and big for the main power lead. That is nice because it makes it easier to use a larger gauge of wire. This is 20 gauge wire on an XT30. The video transmitter was also designed to go with the Pro 2 series, just like this board, and they pair up really nicely. The wires all just go one-to-one down to here. It's small, it's light, and it supports smart audio. I think they call this the T01, and they sell it with the camera. I wish they would sell it by itself because I really like this VTX, and I really don't like the camera that comes on the Pro 2 series. The FOV is way too narrow, and I don't like the light handling. This is actually the front of a Wolfhoop WT07, one of my favorite all-in-one cameras. I split off the camera and put it in here. Again, whatever camera and VTX solution you want to use, I think will be good. And if you put a little piece of foam like this under the camera, It'll help protect it if it gets hit, and it will help to hold the angle if you've got adjustable angle like this one. I don't think there is any one perfect build. It sort of depends on what you're going for. I have a lot of builds that are smaller and lighter than this. I have builds that have longer range and fly faster, and that is awesome. Different builds for different purposes. I'm just really excited about how this one flies for acro in those close proximity flying situations that I love so much for 2S swoops. I want to give a big thank you to Beta FPV. They've really done a lot to help grow this hobby, and we have even more options in parts than ever before, which is awesome. Beta FPV has also been providing me with parts so that I can bring you experimental builds like this. So thank you to Beta FPV. That's it for now. I hope this information helps you get out there and enjoy the awesome and always evolving hobby of micro FPV. You can leave your questions and comments down below. Happy flying.